What the happened? Historical perspectives in getting screwed. Sometimes you have to dig in the dirt to really clean things up. Feminism Gone Wrong 101. Splitting tabs, burning bras, and other bad ideas. Time for a little history lesson, ladies. America, 1914. The war left women lonely. Or did it? Yes, they were without their husbands, but if we consider the quality of some of those marriages and spouses, then maybe for some, that was a good thing for both parties. With the breadwinners out of the house, for better or for worse, women were left to fend for themselves financially. What did they do? They said, bring it on, and went to work. Many of them loved it. They loved the freedom that financial independence afforded them. Some of their marriages felt like prisons. Still, others just liked the sense of personal pride, success, and accomplishment that went along with being self-sufficient. That was all great stuff. But then, somewhere along the way, things changed. Decades later, these courageous women had descendants in the mix. Their grand and great-granddaughters, armed with a little self-made dough in their cute little handbags, started feeling themselves. Ourselves, because they are us. We started imitating men, believing that being like the guys made us more powerful, stronger women. Rather than acknowledging the fantastic strength of our femininity in its own right, we tried to replicate masculine energy. And that never works out well. How did that happen? Usher in the 90s. I loved 90s pop fashion just as much as the next person. Baggy pants and colorful shirts were just coming onto the scene when the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air had everyone running to the malls to cop his cool duds. Clothes were flashy, hair was high, and music seemed louder than ever before. But while many little girls were grooving with their pink little boom boxes, listening to NSYNC, New Edition, and Savage Garden sing their gentlemanly way into millions of tweenage hearts, other, less gentlemanly recording artists expressed creative differences as they related to their thoughts about women and the appropriate dynamic of male-female relationships. While breakdancers were drawing large crowds at Venice Beach, these less-than-lady-loving lyricists and their 2 No. 2 pencils on spiral notebooks were busy breaking us down. Songs like "Bitch Better Have My Money" helped set off a chain reaction of disrespect and misogyny. And no, he wasn't saying have as in help yourself to my money, my dear. My moolah is your moolah. Not by far. He was rather demanding that the woman pay him for sex. Similar messages began pumping through the walls of our favorite night spots. And this was only the tip of the iceberg. Surely we can't forget about "Shake that ass, bitch, and let me see what you got." "Big pimpin'. Ain't no fun if the homies can't have none. There's some in this house. Me so horny." You get the picture. Initially, these outrageous songs were isolated to a small audience, a narrow demographic, but soon their sordid sound waves began permeating the air of even some of the poshest night spots, invading the orifices of partygoers from big cities to rural towns and communities. Stealthily, these offensive, barbaric lyrics came bundled with beats that were hypnotizing and, sadly, inspiring. Worse than the worst subliminal message, these female-bashing beats took over our bodies and made us want to get out there and dance. Women, that is. Men just stood back and watched us bring the songs to life. So we found ourselves huddled on the dance floor, dancing with ourselves, holding our self-purchased drinks, shaking our pretty little behinds compliantly, all the while giggling and making googly eyes at the menfolk standing on the outskirts, nodding their heads in superior approval, assuming we must be down with the musical message washing our brains. Wow, look at that bitch over there shaking her ass and letting me see what she's got. Shake it, bitch, shake it, was what they had to be thinking, because there we were, obeying Splack Pack and Kid Money's orders, shaking our asses and letting them see what we've got. But degrading lyrics in the 90s weren't the end of it, for there was more misogyny on the horizon. As the 90s prepared to wrap up, unbeknownst to us, there was more mayhem in the works. And it wouldn't be long until the next millennium before we'd see the emergence of low-quality literature getting in on the act. We'd soon see male-targeted books like How to Be a Player filthy up the shelves of some of our favorite bookstores, muscling their way into the self-help sections, taking up precious reading real estate on cherry oak planks. So be it via the radio or our favorite reading rooms, the 90s and immediately following found us out with our girlfriends and in with ourselves, awaiting instructions on how to proceed into the next millennium. Goodbye, 20th century. Then came Y2K. When the 90s showed itself to the door, looked over its shoulder and told us, "It's been fun," we waved back ambiguously, wondering whether we should thank it or punch it in the face. You see, we were still dissatisfied with our love lives. We weren't any better off than we were before all the booty shaking and drink buying. And now, to top it off, we didn't feel accomplished enough, or pretty enough, or smart enough. We felt like there was still so much more work to be done before we could dare consider ourselves worthy of love. Not just any love, the kind of love movies told us existed in the worlds of other women. Women who were not us, women we wanted to be. We decided we needed to up our game. We needed to figure out ways to make ourselves more romantically marketable in order to secure a guy like whatever those perfect women's names are that they tell us exist. Determined to make ourselves a certified catch, even if it killed us, we began burning ourselves out. We found ourselves getting up at the crack of dawn, rushing off to work with our college degrees on display, designer suits on our backs, and powered pumps on our feet, clutching purses we'd spent so much money on that we couldn't afford to put much money inside. We worked so hard. We worked until the sun was about to set, then, worn out, hopped back into our cars, checking for messages from you-know-who did not call. We thought he liked us. How couldn't he? We'd put our best pedicured foot forward with him, hoping he was the one. We'd cooked for him, told him all our business in order to show just how attractively layered we are. We slept with him, put it on him in the worst, best way in the bedroom. So why didn't he call? After pondering it all for a few weeks, we soon realized that he was the one who didn't want us, the one who wouldn't call us back, the one who'd already had his way with us and was now moving on to the next long-legged adventure, the one we wanted to murder. Feeling the rejection, but not really wanting to risk spending a lifetime in a 6x8 cell, followed by an eternity in hell, we replaced our homicidal fantasies with modified hope and began exploring Plan Bs. All the while, though, we were hurting, struggling, self-doubting. The pain, as intense as it was, tried to get our attention, and eventually it did. It made us think. That was a good thing. The pain told us that something was off, and that we really needed to take some time to rethink our romantic strategies, our choices when it came to dating Mr.
F you for not calling.
And the likes of him and other men, as it had now been revealed to us that there was a high risk of heartbreak associated with exercising poor judgment and dating a dirtbag. Ladies, dating a dirtbag is dangerous. It can seriously injure your self-esteem. Again, this pain-driven pondering was good. Reflection is a wonderful thing. But instead of responding to this pain, this stimulus, in a way that would have easily corrected things, we started overthinking things. Like when you overthought that relatively easy multiple choice question back in AP Human Geography, the one whose answer you knew, but it seemed too easy, too simplistic to actually be correct. Putting our magnificent brain power to poor use, we overanalyzed the obvious. Nonetheless, being the natural problem solvers that we are, we sashayed our way back to our respective drawing boards and began drafting plans for a comeback. A stronger, pain-proof comeback. Become the predator, not the prey, was what we came up with. We psyched ourselves out to believe that we could operate as men do and thus be happier. Or at least less sad. Be like the boys, we encouraged each other. If we can't beat them, be them, we thought, sure that we'd crack the code of conduct that would bring us ultimate dating success. Lil' Kim told us we could be boss bitches who could run the whole sexual show and have him eating out the palms of our hands while keeping our emotions and egos in check. Even Destiny's Child had us thinking we could coldly, when it's all over, please get up and leave him, as we roll over onto our sides for some extra shut-eye and bask in a more masculine version of Afterglow, telling him to lock the door behind him on his way out. While that burlesque strategy may work for the world-famous, multi-talented, filthy rich, and beautiful combo, the WMFB, as it applies to the rest of us, being so icy will only leave us lonely. In plainer English, it ain't gonna work for us. Sorry, it's just not. Because his will get up and leave, which would be fine if that's what we really wanted. But since it isn't, well, as any responsible sword swallower would say, don't try that at home. For those of us that actually want our man of the moment to stay, to hang around for a while, that kiss and dismiss strategy would work against everything that we hope for in a potential relationship. We want him to stay. We want him to stay and love us. We want him to be our mate. Dismissing him is the furthest thing from our minds after we sexually connect with the guy we like. And trying to play cold-hearted, overriding our natural instincts, our marvelous Mother Nature-provided programming, is a joke. When we try to behave as if we can operate on an emotionally absent level, as some of these male players do, it's just now us playing ourselves. Nonetheless, some of us did try this strategy and failed miserably. The whole trying to act as if we lacked emotions subsequently made us even bigger victims of bad romances and left us even sadder than we were before. Here's why. We're not men. That's a biologically simple fact. Just like we're not ducks, we're not men. We'd look quite silly waddling around the city, quacking like crazy because we thought ducks had it better, now wouldn't we? Likewise, we look equally as absurd trying to pull off the same stunts as some of these so-called men and believe we'll actually experience increased satisfaction and relationship success. Beaks off, beauties. We're women. Let's work that. Tired of self-esteem lowering songs in your diamond-studded satellites? Try these alternatives, sure to give you an instant boost and remind you of just how precious of a being you really are and what real men think of you and our kind. Some of us may call these corny. No worries, that's just the brainwashing talking. You'll work through it. Eventually, you'll come to find that the word you're actually looking for is decent, or loving, or beautiful, maybe even what used to be the norm before all the brainwashing and manipulating. And don't just stop at the titles, listen to the lyrics. Enjoy! Here we go. A decent dozen. Number 1. You are so beautiful, Billy Preston. 2. I love you just the way you are, Billy Joel. 3. I'll name the dogs, Blake Shelton. 4. All my life, Casey and JoJo. 5. I'll never break your heart, Backstreet Boys. 6. This I promise you, NSYNC. 7. Endless Love, Lionel Richie. 8. I'll make love to you, Boys to Men. 9. I don't want to miss a thing, Aerosmith. 10. When a man loves a woman, Percy Sledge. Number 11. She's Got Away, Billy Joel. 12. I just called to say I love you, Stevie Wonder. Ladies, there's so many more songs out there that you can choose from that will help you to feel like the beautiful, desired woman you are. My personal favorite, country, OMG. I almost fall in love with every male country singer out there. True songwriters, they really know how to cater to love, appeal to women, reminding us of how beautiful we are. Whatever you choose, ladies, choose wisely, because music has power. Whatever you listen to over and over again is what you're going to start believing about yourself. Music changes your entire mood. Change it for the better. So what about that bra burning business? The women's liberation movement. On the historical heels of the women's right to vote victory, the women's liberation movement was like round 2 of Get Your Foot Off My Neck, and was comprised of several feminist groups who continued to fight against all forms of oppression and male supremacy. They fought for equality with respect to politics, personal choices, and economics. Without it, you and I would be living a substantially less quality life today. Here are some of its victories for us women. The right to work. The right to not be fired for being pregnant. The right to pursue a higher education. The right to play college sports. The right to study women's studies. Reproductive rights. Way to go, ladies. Great job, and thank you. Imagine living a life where the above was not the norm. Pretty repulsive, right? Yep, oppression always is. Yet, while the women's liberation movement set out to undo some of the lousy laws that the breast and uterusless population had established, it did not, however, fight for the following reasons. To make you believe that you should be the one to ask a guy out on a date. To give you the impression that you should pay for said date. To encourage you to call a guy or text him like crazy. To compel you to compare yourself to other women or to compete for the affections of a man. To have you criticize yourself every time you look in the mirror. No, my lovelies, those wonderful warriors of women's rights did not fight for your right to be a fool or to let a man walk all over you, nor did they fight for you to begin becoming men or behaving like them. Otherwise, they would have called it the women's termination movement. Stop playing the Adam's apple. Stop trying to emulate men. No. Stop trying to prove yourself and prove your strength and just be strong. A woman is not strong because she can act like a man. She is strong because she is a woman. A man after my own heart, William Golding, said it best. I think women are foolish to pretend they are equal to men. They are far superior and always have been. Whatever you give a woman, she will make greater. If you give her sperm, she will give you a baby. If you give her a house, she will give you a home. If you give her groceries, she will give you a meal. If you give her a smile, she will give you her heart. She multiplies and enlarges whatever is given to her. So if you give her any crap, be ready to receive a ton of shit. William Golding, British novelist, playwright, and poet, 1911 to 1993. The bras already. What about the bras? Headlines of barbecued bras strategically stole the show, subtracting from the seriousness of the women's liberation movement. News reports of women taking off their boob holders in support of the movement was disproportionately prevalent, intentionally eclipsing and minimizing the real goals of this very powerful, momentum-gaining fight. Rather than real coverage, some media outlets broadcasted their own versions of the movement, thus manufacturing it in the minds of the masses. Their versions painted these very courageous women marching around taking off some piece of their lingerie in the name of liberation and equality and burning it on the streets in a freedom-demanding display. This, sadly for some, became what first comes to mind when thinking about the social political movement. While there was a very small population of women protesters who, on one particular day outside the Miss America contest, threw several items into a trash can, including some bras, the term bra burning, associated with the women's liberation movement, was a gross misrepresentation of what was really going on. This was clearly an attempt to discredit and ridicule. And it was later revealed that no burning of anything ever took place that day, bras included. This was fake news, as we'd call it today. And it was just another way to make women look and feel silly and unworthy of being taken seriously. So, before you go unhooking your racerback, consider that you and I have been brainwashed into believing that the strong, courageous, socially conscious women before us rallied primarily for the ridiculous right to go braless. It's just not true. Don't believe the hype. Moral of the story: don't be deceived. Just as the old school media tried to make the world believe that bra burning and going braless was the central focus of the women's liberation movement, modern manipulative men will have you believe that paying your own way on dates and carrying his load is the new norm. It isn't. So go on, put your bra back on, and adopt reasonable, high standards when it comes to dating. It's still reasonable to expect to be doted on by a man who is interested in getting romantically close to you. Being a woman with standards is always in fashion. We can't really end this little history lesson without talking about his story. As we saw in the previous section, our mindsets as they pertain to dating and relating to men have sustained some serious trauma. It's fair to say that history hasn't necessarily been women's best friend. Men too, however, have a history of their own worth telling. There is certainly a historical perspective to be considered when it comes to our testosterone-rich counterparts. Men, it seems, have a history of busying themselves, as well as being obsessed with speed, capture, and collecting. When a man is a boy, he has hobbies to which he devotes his time, energy, and resources. He'd spend his allowance on his interests and his weekends in the garage working on his favorite pastimes: trains, coin collecting, amateur entomology. He finds delight in these things. As he ages, notice I didn't say matures, as that is not necessarily a given, as is aging, his focus shifts. He develops a new hobby, a new focus: you. Us. Women. Women become a man's favorite new hobby. His fascination revolves no longer around objects with wheels and wings, rather bodies with boobs and softer things. His obsession with speed now relates to how fast he can get into your underwear. No longer do the males of our species try to capture bugs and collect old currency. When their bones elongate and facial hair sprout, so too do their appetites for capturing your sweetest affections. They're now more interested in having their way with you and in bragging about their conquests over brewskis with the boys. Yes, women become men's favorite new hobby, the hobby of all hobbies. Yes, it's all about you. Go on, blush. But this isn't just an ego-feeding exercise. No false sense of self-importance being dished out here. Just real deal, true blue facts. A single man spends the majority of his time, whether he recognizes it or not, making decisions that better position him to appear more desirable to women. From his haircut to his car, from his gym to his job, he wants to increase his chances of meeting a fantastic woman. That's normal, by the way, and we like that, don't we? Let's all shake our heads in unison. So while reminding ourselves of that fact, let's remember this as well. It only works to our benefit if we know it to be true and if we play our role accordingly, because the one who is pursued has the power. Now, let's clear up any negative connotation associated with the word power, because I don't want this to get in the way of how you receive this message and thus deny what is rightfully yours. We must do this right away, lest we proceed with an unwarranted aversion to this idea and an unwillingness to assume this gift that is inherently feminine. Power is not a bad thing. It's not some sadistic tool we wield in order to degrade or disrespect another person. So guys, if you're nosy enough to be listening to this, don't get your boxer briefs in a bunch. Power, as defined by Webster's, is the following. 1. Possession of control, authority, or influence over others. 2. Ability to act or do something. 3A. Physical might. 3B, mental strength. All of those definitions work for me. How about you, ladies? You have the power. Stop forfeiting it. You are the prize. Nature made it that way. Males work toward winning over females. They pursue, they prance around, they chase, they impress, they provide. Don't believe me? Just take a glance around the animal kingdom. Take birds, for example. Let's look at some of the things male birds do for the love and attention of a female. They sing their hearts out. Sexual selection can be as fickle as hitting the right note at the right time. And while singing when it comes to birds is not all about attraction, it's hard to deny that as a female, being sung to is a pretty darn good aphrodisiac. And in this case, a fairly effective way for a male bird to get a peek under those feathers. They get their dance on. Male birds really know how to cut a rug. But even if they aren't the Fred Astaire of their flock, that doesn't stop them from trying to dance their way into the love nests of the female of their species. Crested pigeons, albatross, and bowerbirds, to name a few, all bust a move in the name of lure. Birds of paradise, in particular, take their choreography quite seriously. They don't just rely on those fancy dance genes they inherit by the dozen from Papa Paradise, but actually spend significant time practicing to refine their moves in order to really make them their own. How could any female resist? They gift. Penguins, like some other birds, are so serious about winning the object of their affection that they show the female of their choosing that they are able to provide for them in a major way. Male pangs present to their chosen ones beautiful stones and pebbles as a way of saying, "Baby, I can get this ice off your tail. Let's build a home together." He then uses these geological gems to build her a nest in which the two of them share. Cool move. Not to be outdone, though, spiders have taken a page from the Penguin's Lover with Blubber handbook and did some slight editing. Instead of pebbles and stones, spiders of the species Paratrichalia ornate, for example, will present to their courted ones silk-wrapped yummies in order to get a little eight-legged lovin'. While she's busy unwrapping her din-din, he's going in. But as with all spiders, you really have to watch your back. Some of their prey presents up to 70%, turn out to be total duds. His leftovers, random scraps, and offerings of very low nutritional value. It's like giving her a fake diamond. Where's the bug spray when you need it? They show what they're working with. No male of our species would ever wish to be referred to as being hung like a bird. But in the case of the ribbon-tailed astrapia, this little birdie would be considered the most well-endowed of all birds relative to its body size. Its 3-foot-long pair of tail feathers proves effective at turning plenty feathered heads. While toting around such biological baggage can be a literal pain in the rear for him, as it makes him more visible to predators and often gets tangled up in tree branches, the payoff is in the preferential attention he receives from the ladybirds. Putting sex before safety, he wouldn't be the first male of any species to risk his life for a piece of punani. They make the ultimate sacrifice. This one's not exactly bird-specific, but it's certainly worth mentioning. While some birds are known to mate for life, such as the bald eagle, black vulture, and California condor, a certain insect takes their till death do us part promises to a more drastic and premature level. Upstaging all males of the animal kingdom, praying mantis males allow themselves to be eaten mid-mating. Yes, eaten. But even though he won't be around to change any mini mantis diapers, Daddy still brings home the bacon, so to speak, as these males make for an excellent source of nutrients for the eggs the females will lay as a result of their copulation and her subsequent cannibalization of him. So, while having his head bit off while getting his swerve on doesn't exactly seem very romantic, this papa-to-be takes posthumous pride in being able to still provide for his youngins in the afterlife. Whether it costs a literal arm and a leg, kids gotta eat. Talk about crumb snatchers. I appreciate how birds really go the extra mile. You know what? Let's go back to the dancing. You guys want to see it in action? Here, why don't you take a look at this? Okay. Oh, where is she? Where is she? Yoo-hoo! 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 Ooh, you didn't know I could do that, did you? You didn't know I could do that. Oh, look, check it out, check it out. Yeah, I thought that might get your attention. How are you, huh? Huh? Can I do a little dance for you? All right, want to see it? Oh, wait. Oh, whoop, wait, hey. I guess he should have flossed first. But you get the point. Bird and bug envy? Yeah, me too. But don't fret. It's not too late to learn from our fellow females, feathered or otherwise. We're not asking for the males of our species to go all praying mantis on us, but maybe a little penguin would do the trick. Are you in? So now that you've got a little background and better understanding of the mess that's become of the human dating ritual, let's get started on fixing it. Ready? I'm with you, ladies. We're in this together. Come along with me as I inspire you to take those pants off and put your bra back on in order to resurrect some real love in our lives.